Well, I'm always a little leery of player or sources, especially when it's players and they're not going to put their name to it. I give it a certain amount of credibility, but it's also a way for players to make excuses for the team not playing well. Now, it's easy to say, well, with the uncertainty of LeBron, I'm not playing as well, all right? Because there can't be, if the sources are a player and what they said is true, whoever the players were, they're not playing well. You understand what I'm saying? So it's not like they can come from a spot of, you know something, I'm playing great. Even if it was Kevin Love 3 weeks ago, he couldn't even do that right now. So whoever it is, if there are players, and they say they did say this, then they're players that aren't playing well, but they're just making excuses. For me, I don't like players to make excuses for the team's failure. All right? Now, if the team was working in sync, now do they have some things they have to overcome? Yes. But LeBron's uncertainty, it shouldn't affect this team.
Well, I don't think they're saying it's the uncertainty. I want to give a little background on this report.
It's got to be part of that because they have 8 new players. All right. So what are they? Because LeBron and the teams he's been on have gone through the January thing before. What else could they be talking about?
So let me give a little context to the report. It was very interesting. Cleveland.com, The Athletic, and ESPN.com all had the same story. And they all reported it as some prominent players came to all 3 publications.
Not even 2. 3 of them went to a back room or something.
Right, and so I am certain this happened. This is not, there's these 3 different reporters from 3 competing publications didn't create this conspiracy. So what clearly happened is guys that matter on the Cavs, more than one, went to them and said, man, I don't know how we can beat Golden State. Like, that's what happened. They lost to Golden State. The night after the game, this story came out. The morning after that game, man, I don't know that we can beat these guys. And so how concerned should we be? Right now, they're right. Right now, the Cavs can't beat Golden State. Not with Isaiah Thomas not healthy. Not with LeBron and Kevin Love and Isaiah Thomas, that big 3, not being a big 3 at the moment. In fact, since Isaiah came back, it's reverted to a big 1, really, because Kevin Love shrunk into the background. But what those guys don't have, because they're caught in the moment right now and having to answer questions about Golden State, having to compete with Golden State, is the context of this is no different than LeBron saying on the record, we need a bleeping playmaker. That was a year ago last week. Or 2 years ago when they decided they were so far from Golden State, they fired their coach this time of the year. Or 3 years ago when they decided we need to make a major roster change and they traded for Shump, JR, and Timothy Mozgov, who were huge in them even getting to the NBA Finals. The players at some point, and you can't blame them for this, they can't think about it contextually in the history of it. The only one who probably can is LeBron, because he's been to 7 straight of these things. One thing I can guarantee you, LeBron wasn't one of these prominent players. LeBron wasn't saying to anyone, we can't win the title. We can't beat these guys. It's other guys who don't see what this team potentially can become, and it should be said, they are heavy underdogs against Golden State.
One thing I was trying to get to was, for one, it's not LeBron. He didn't say it. But also, they got so many new players. How many players do they have on their roster that actually beat Golden State with LeBron?
Kevin Love, Tristan, and JR. As far as
Shump.
It's Shump. Shump's not playing right now. But, yeah, I was thinking about guys that are playing right now.
So there's only a few guys. So it has to be some of those guys. So to me, it's not only about not being able to beat Golden State. It's about also what their basketball future is. Is someone going to get traded? But right now, they're not in a good spot. To me, the players, when you go to someone like that, you're just trying to make excuses before the letdown, because they could still beat everyone in the East. They could still go to the finals. And for most people, that's a successful season. Like, I don't know why they're complaining to the media at this juncture of the season. Well, that's the part I don't understand.
No, and understandable, because if they're saying it, though, there's something that they're concerned about. There's no reason for them to put themselves out there.
Sometimes it's selfish, though, Jenna. Sometimes Sometimes what I'm concerned about is theoretically, and I might not be able to report this, but I might have a source too, CC. Theoretically, it's a guy like, I don't know, Tristan Thompson, who's no longer a starter, who doesn't love, or I shouldn't say no longer a starter, but whose role has been minimized, who's not having a great year, who's not seeing his impact realized. Sometimes it's guys who aren't, not only is the team not playing great, but they're not getting, as Cece was alluding to, at least what they thought were their own numbers. They're hearing themselves included in trade discussions. And one guy we left out who beat Golden State, Channing Frye, but he wouldn't be considered a prominent player at this juncture.
Isn't this the kind of situation where you tend to see like a tweet from LeBron or an Instagram or something to reassures people that things are okay or whatnot? Is this one of those situations that the strife might be just a little too big for it to be squashed by a piece of social media?
Nothing's too big for LeBron, all right? Regardless of what the other players say, they're good enough to beat the other teams in the East, all right? So LeBron can get them to the finals, all right? LeBron will do a couple things along the way. He'll say things. He'll tweet something. Like, yes, he's going to do those things. But these other players are fortunate. They got the best player in the world. And the best player in the world, him and Dwayne Wade, you can guarantee it was not them who mentioned these things to the media. So as long as LeBron's got confidence, they do have a chance.
Well, and you mentioned LeBron might tweet something reassuring. If LeBron tweets or Instagrams anything, it won't be reassuring.
No.
It'll be passive-aggressive. We'll dissect it. That's not – LeBron doesn't go to social media to reassure people. He goes to social media to create more uncertainty. But I do want to be totally fair here. Cece, I talked about how difficult it is when we were talking about the Warriors to make 4 straight finals. Mm-hmm. I didn't talk about it in regards to the Cavs because LeBron's been to 7 straight. But those other guys haven't. And so what we're seeing with some of these, Kevin Love's been there the whole time. Mm-hmm. JR's been there essentially the whole time. Mm-hmm. Shump's been there essentially the whole time. Tristan's been there the whole time. What we're seeing is some of the same stuff we've seen with the other teams that went to 3 straight, and then year 4 wasn't going quite the way they'd hoped, and there's some fraying. They're long seasons. It's hard, especially if you're not the defending champion, especially if you've been to 3 straight, but the last one didn't turn out in your favor. It's tough to get back. You're seeing that start to wear on these guys. Now, by the way,
I'd be more concerned if those guys said we couldn't beat the Celtics.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I'd be more concerned if it were after the trade deadline.
This fight comes one day after Martin Luther King Day, where all these games are highlighted. You got 20 technicals. You got 5 ejections. And I brought it up in the meeting yesterday, and let alone I'm watching League Pass last night, and this breaks out. So for me, as a fan, as a consumer of their product, there is a problem. Because I do not tune into NBA League Pass to watch UFC. That's not what I'm interested in.
Here's the thing, though, CC. Every other sport allows a level of fighting. And so you can say that.
Where are they fighting in the NFL?
Man, we see not that type of punching, but we see guys slap someone's face mask or do like an open-handed thing to the helmet and get a 15-yard penalty once every other game.
Yeah, and 2 of those get you thrown out of the game.
Right.
And you do have protection.
Correct. Agree. But there is.
But that's not fighting.
Well,
that's not fighting.
That's the level of fighting most.
That's a level of fighting I ain't heard of.
Well, most NBA fights don't get to this level. Most NBA fights get to about the level.
It gets to what? They're not fighters, though.
Well, so hold on. So baseball, fighting's part of the sport. Like, we just accept it. Like, you throw at me, we're going to clear benches, we're going to clear dugouts, we're going to do the whole thing. Hockey, obviously, a huge part of it. NASCAR, we see fighting on pit row. Like
UFC?
Well, obviously. I mean, I'm sorry. I mean, but the boxing and UFC, yes, because it's part and parcel with the sport. But extracurricular fighting is a part of every sport, and it used to be a part of the NBA. The NBA legislated it out, most notably after the Malice in the Palace, but they were starting to do it before that with the rule about guys coming off the bench. These guys also have been criticized for the AAU culture, everyone being buddy-buddy. The NBA's soft now. Now, maybe it's
These are 2 international players.
What? Well, that's fine, Cece. Again, I don't think we're just talking about last night, right? We're not just talking about last night, are we?
No, we're talking about the totality of it. Yes, we're talking about the totality of it.
So, this is... I don't know what the NBA does about it, but I also know that, like, you seem more bothered by fighting in sports than I think most sports fans are.
Well, it affects the product. All right, it does not enhance the product. It's not as if you leave an NBA game with all these technicals or someone's thrown out of the game. It enhances. It's about skill. You know, that's what basketball is about. It's not about fighting. Fighting has nothing to do with it. Now, sometimes do you have to defend yourself in sports? Yes. But it's a bad look for the NBA that is gaining traction in the as far as popularity. That's my concern, and it's a sport that I love. And if I'm not comfortable with it, I'm going to say it, and that's where I am.
You don't have an issue with fighting in sports.
I just think I think when you got grown men that are playing contact sports, there's going to be a level of this. Now,
yeah. Also, we're talking about professional grown men being paid a lot of money. You know what? To have some type of self-control. Wow, that's what they should have.
And I want to make this clear. I did have an issue with what Aaron Aflalo did last night. He really could have hurt him. That could have been a devastating.
And he really tried to hurt him.
But that was a much more dramatic swing than we almost ever see in NBA games. Like the Serge Ibaka-James Johnson thing from last week was noteworthy because there was an actual punch thrown.
Yeah, we actually had a posse go from one locker room into another locker room, Nick, and then we get one guy throw a haymaker at another guy. Yeah, that's what I'm consuming. All right, NBA League Pass. That's what I bought that for. That's what I purchased it for.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from First Things First, or go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.